Hey, everybody out there on the interweb highway or whatever you kids are calling it nowadays. It's Saturday and it's time for another installment of Jack's Interesting Facts. And right away, straight off the bat, I knew I wanted to talk about films this week, but I wasn't quite sure what to call this. My first thought was to say interesting facts about iconic films, and then I thought, well, what exactly makes a film iconic? And then I said, well, maybe famous films, and again, how do you judge which one is famous? Or popular films, but they're popular to some people, but other people don't like them. So basically, this week is interesting facts about movies that some people like, some people don't like, but most people have heard of. And starting out right off the bat, we're going to pick up where we left off last week. We told you that Bill and Ted were originally a trio, Bill, Ted, and Bob, in a stage act. They were actually an improv act at UCLA. Bob left the group very shortly, but Bill and Ted, played by Ed Solomon and Chris Matheson, stayed and continued doing the characters, and they were rewarded for that because they both are in the Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure and Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey movie. In Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Ed and Chris play the guys that serve Napoleon, the Ziggy Pig, and in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, they are part of a seance. So I guess you could say that the original Bill and Ted and the Bill and Ted that we know have been quite excellent to each other. And sticking with comedies, famous comedies, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. You might be interested to know that the reason they did the gag with the coconuts, making it sound like horses coming, the reason they used coconuts was because they could not afford to get horses for the movie. And sticking again with comedies from the 80s, the Blues Brothers. You might be interested to know that John Paul II, the Pope, John Paul II, took quite an interest in this movie. When he heard they were doing a film about raising money for an orphanage, Pope John Paul II visited the set and blessed the movie. So I guess you could say they really were on a mission from God. And sticking with 80s films, The Karate Kid. Darryl Vidal, who fought in the All Valley tournament and made it up to the semifinals where he lost to Johnny. He's the guy that did all the really cool, wild, jumping around kicks. He is actually a Murrieta Kempo Grandmaster and a 10th degree black belt. And you might be interested to know that when you see Mr. Miyagi doing the crane kick on that pole on the beach, that's actually Darryl Vidal, wearing a skull mask, and that's why it was taken from a distance, so it would look like Mr. Miyagi. Another interesting fact about The Karate Kid is the song, You're the Best Around, Nothing's Gonna Stop You or Keep You Down, was originally written for Rocky III, but they turned it down and decided to go with Eye of the Tiger instead. And sticking with Rocky III, you might be interested to know that Mr. T, Clubber Lang, the character, his mother attended the premiere with him, but stormed out after she heard him make the comments toward Rocky's wife, Adrian, those kind of sexual innuendo comments, and she got so offended, she left and has never watched the movie since. And sticking with films about Italians, one of the most famous films of all time, The Godfather. You might be interested to know that there was not a cat anywhere in the script of The Godfather. When they were making the movie, a cat wandered onto the set astray, and Francis Ford Coppola felt that it kind of humanized the Don Corleone character, so he kept it in the scene, and as a matter of fact, the cat was so loud with its purring that they ended up having to do some heavy editing just to be able to hear Don Corleone's lines. So that was pretty interesting. And staying with iconic films, you might be interested to know that Steven Spielberg owns the Rosebud sled from Citizen Kane. Now, several sleds were used in the movie, but this is the only one known to still exist, and Spielberg bought it at a Sotheby's auction in 1982. And again, with iconic films, Psycho. Now, Psycho had a lot of kind of surprise things in it. It was, people were shocked to see the woman killed in the shower. They were shocked to find out that Norman Bates was actually his mother. Some spoiler alerts there if you've never seen Psycho. Should have warned that in advance, but anyway. But one of the other things that you might not realize was so stunning to the audience at the time was that they showed a toilet. Yes, in 1960, Psycho was the first time a toilet was ever seen on a movie screen. It was just seen as taboo at the time. And continuing once more with iconic films, Gone with the Wind. You might be interested to know that the author of the book, Margaret Mitchell, first of all, that was the only book she ever had published, but also she was very much against Clark Gable playing Rhett Butler. Her choice to play the role? Groucho Marx. And I think that could have been interesting. There's a lot of comedic actors out there that have done some great dramatic roles, and I would have loved to see how Groucho Marx did in a dramatic role, but, Clark Gable was great. And sticking with actors that were changed for their parts, it might interest you to know that Henry Winkler was the original choice to play Danny Zuko in Grease. But get this, he turned it down because he did not want to be typecast as a leather 1950s clad leather type. Yeah, way to think there, Fonz. I don't know. But anyway, another person that you might be surprised to know was cast in a certain role was the Terminator was not originally supposed to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, but they wanted the Terminator to be O.J. Simpson. But as they started to do the filming, they thought that O.J. was too nice and friendly and that nobody would ever believe that he was supposed to be a psychopathic killer. I don't really know what else to say on that one. We'll just leave that there. It also might interest you to know that the movie Titanic was timed to last the exact amount of time that it took the actual boat to sink. So the movie runs to the exact hour and second that the boat sank down to the bottom of the ocean. Pretty interesting, I thought. And Edward Scissorhands. You might be interested to know that Edward's outfit was made by cutting up pieces of Johnny Depp's couch, the fabric from the couch, and then sticking it together with duct tape. I mean, they saved some serious budget money on that costume. And it looks perfect, to be honest. Now, closing out, I want to look at a very iconic film with a few different interesting facts. And that is the 1971 classic Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Now, I want to take a look mainly at the children actors here. Denise Nickerson, who played Violet Beauregard, Denise had to get 13 cavities when she was done filming. She had 13 cavities, had to get 13 cavities filled when she was done filming because she had chewed gum for so long on the set. Gave her 13 cavities. It's also interesting to note that Michael Bolner, who played Augustus Gloop, did not speak a word of English. They liked the way he looked, and he had to memorize the words and just repeat them verbatim. He had no idea what he was saying or what anybody else on the set was saying. And actually, some of the kids as adults have said it was just sad to see him sitting in the corner alone, just not talking to anybody and not knowing what to say. Julie Dawn Cole, that played Veruca Salt. She was the only child actor from the Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory movie to ever act again. All these children that were in this big iconic movie in major roles, you'd think they would have gone on to huge careers after that, but none of them acted again except for her, and she mostly acted in soap operas from that point on. And to make it even more interesting, Peter Ostrom, who was the main child, who played Charlie, who ends up inheriting the Chocolate Factory, the main child. This is his one and only film credit. Not only did he not act again after, but he had never done a film before. And he used the money from the film to go on to fulfill his dream of becoming a veterinarian. He used the money from the film to pay for veterinarian school. So that is some interesting facts about films that you have probably seen, whether you like them or not. And I'll be back again next week with another installment of Jack's Interesting Facts. Bye now.